Hi, it's Chris, and here's my review of reading through the Bible in a year chronologically. Today, September 15th, we read through the end of Esther, starting in chapter 5 and just wrapping it up. And it's just a cool story explaining and showing us the providence of God, how even in times of adversity, God has control of things. Even when we think there is no way, God has a way. And how we're supposed to act when approaching God and dealing with people not that aren't even following God with humility. We deal with God with humility. We humble ourselves. We sacrifice by fasting and praying to seek His favor on things. That's what Esther had her people do, and had Mordecai do as well, to come before the king. And she humbly came before the king, even though she was queen. She didn't take that position lightly. She honored that position of king, and she also did some buttering up before she went. She served a meal, right? She did well there. And then we get to see how Mordecai, his presence, irritated Haman, and how that worked against him. And then we see how God made the king not be able to sleep, and then sleep out a sleep aid by reviewing history. And then we see how God showed him that Mordecai was never honored, and he decided he'd honor Mordecai on the same day that Haman was coming in to ask for his life. Huh. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just, that's God. God can do things like that, and He still does things that are similar, that are along those lines. But not always. It's not always going to work that way, but we see how God can work and how He is able to work through anything. That's why we should fear Him. That's exactly why we need to bow down before Him and go, God, You are God. Not my will, but Yours be done, Lord. When we honor God in that way, He honors us. He takes care of us. And Mordecai, through his humility, became a great person to the king. And same thing with Esther. Her humility and her willingness to bow down allowed a whole people, the Jews, all the Jews, God's chosen people, worked through those two people because they were humble. And He worked through the arrogance and pride, and actually it was Haman's own what's the word I want to say, insecurity. He was the second in command, and he was insecure about Mordecai not bowing down to him. Wow, what does insecurity do for us? What does that do to us? Why do we worry about something somebody else is doing? That was Haman's downfall, right? He was so worried about what Mordecai did or didn't do that it cost him his life. He tried to conspire against them, and it turned around on him. So some things to consider there. I think there's a lot more in the story of Esther, and it's a great story to read. It's an easy, quick read, fun read. Read it. Read Esther.